Chapter 1: Debris and Orchids. Autumn arrived suddenly, splashing cold puddles across the streets and stripping the last traces of gold from the trees. My biology classroom smelled of damp soil, chalk, and the slightly bitter scent of decay, which I tried in vain to cover with strong coffee. I was 29 years old, the age when people expect certain things from you: a family, children, a successful career. But exactly 1 year earlier, my life had turned to ashes. My husband left. There were no arguments, no dramatic scenes, and no honest conversations. One evening, I came home to find a half-empty wardrobe and a note on the kitchen table. "I'm sorry. I've met someone else. It will be better this way." It didn't get better. It felt as if a rusty key had been turned inside me, locking my heart shut forever. The love I had believed in with all the blindness of youth turned out to be a dangerous chemical element, unstable, toxic, and destructive to everything it touched. My world shrank to a simple routine: home and school, school and home. Every morning, I arrived long before the first bell, when the hallways still held the coolness of the night. The orchids on the windowsill and the piles of students' notebooks became my refuge. During lessons, I enthusiastically explained the nervous system to my students. I told them how heliotropism makes plants turn toward the sun, and how wisely nature strives for perfect balance. But there was no balance inside me, only a scorched field covered with the ashes of broken dreams. On weekends, I willingly locked myself away within four walls. I read psychology books, trying to understand and analyze my own pain. Occasionally, I visited my mother and spent long moments having silent conversations with my reflection in the mirror. "Enough," I would whisper firmly to the pale woman staring back at me. "No one will ever hurt me again." I had built a perfect fortress, but even the strongest walls can fall when the right person touches their foundation. Chapter 2: Cracks in the Fortress. Alan arrived at the school in early October, filling the vacant position of physical education teacher. Tall and broad-shouldered, with the restrained grace of a predator shaped by years on the sports field, he instantly became the favorite topic of conversation in the staff room. A former professional football player whose career had been ruthlessly cut short by a serious knee injury, he carried himself with that rare, quiet confidence that belongs only to people who have endured difficult trials and come through them stronger. "A man like that and in the middle of nowhere?" the vice principals whispered behind his back. With his reputation, he could be coaching top clubs in the capital and making a fortune. What on earth is he doing here? Alan seemed completely unaware of the gossip. He kept to himself, always polite but noticeably reserved. For quite some time, our acquaintance went no further than brief nods exchanged in the corridor. That changed on a cold November afternoon when preparations were underway for the school's annual celebration. I was struggling to move a large display stand loaded with educational materials. The structure wobbled dangerously. One of the wheels had jammed, and my fingers kept slipping on the polished wooden frame. "Allow me, Mary." The low, velvety baritone behind me made me jump. Startled, I straightened my shoulders and replied stubbornly, "Thank you, but I can manage." Those words, "times, I can manage times," had long since become my shield, an automatic response to the outside world. But Alan didn't step back. Gently yet firmly, he placed his hands over mine. His fingers were warm and dry, as he effortlessly took hold of the heavy frame and moved it aside. "You know, Mary," he said quietly, looking down at me with the faintest hint of a smile, "sometimes times I can manage times is just another way of protecting yourself. Useful in a battle, perhaps, but completely unnecessary here." For a moment, I stood frozen. What struck me was not his strength, but the simple truth of his words. His eyes, a deep steel gray, held neither a trace of masculine superiority nor the shallow confidence of a man trying to flirt. There was only understanding. Genuine, profound understanding, as though he could read my soul like an open book. That day, the first tiny crack appeared in the walls of my fortress. We began to talk. At first, it was just a few casual conversations by the coffee machine. Then came longer discussions during breaks, lingering in the staff room after everyone else had left. And somehow, without even trying, he made me laugh. Really laugh. The kind of laughter that made me forget I had spent an entire year believing that smiles no longer belonged on my face. Chapter 3. Bare Souls. Winter arrived without warning, wrapping the city in a shell of ice. That evening, after an endless and exhausting parent-teacher meeting, Alan and I were the last people left in the school. Outside, a thick snowstorm swirled through the darkness, blurring the outlines of the buildings beyond the windows. I sat at my desk with my head resting in my hands, feeling completely drained. "You look as if you're carrying the weight of the whole fragile world on your shoulders." Alan approached so quietly that I hadn't heard him. He set a steaming mug of fragrant herbal tea in front of me. "It's just too many thoughts," I replied, wrapping my hands around the warm ceramic cup. "Sometimes I wish I could simply switch my brain off." "Tell me about it." He perched on the edge of the neighboring desk. His gaze felt comforting, like a warm blanket on a freezing night. "If you want to, of course." And to my own surprise, I began to talk. The words poured out of me unchecked. I told him about the betrayal that had come without warning, about the way my faith in loyalty had shattered, and about the suffocating fear of letting someone back into my life. Alan listened in silence. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look away. When I finally stopped speaking, he turned his eyes toward the snow beating against the window and said quietly, "My walls aren't any better than yours, Mary. The difference is that I'm trapped inside mine with someone who hates me." A bitter smile crossed his face. "My marriage turned into a carefully crafted form of torture a long time ago," he continued, exposing a wound he had clearly carried for years. "My wife has never forgiven me for the injury. Every day, I'm reminded that I'm a failure who threw away his talent, that because of me, she lost the life of luxury she dreamed of. Going home feels like walking into a courtroom where I'm sentenced all over again, day after day." His honesty struck me straight in the heart. We were like two survivors of a shipwreck who had somehow found each other on a deserted island. In the weeks that followed, something between us began to change. There was the morning coffee that I unfailingly found waiting on my desk. There were long walks through the snow-covered park after classes. And there was that bittersweet anticipation that grew before every new meeting. I was coming back to life. Little by little, my heart seemed to be thawing. Chapter 4. Fire and Frost. The end came in January. We were sitting in my car after a late movie. Snow was gathering on the windshield, while the dim glow of a street lamp bathed the interior in warm amber light. Alan had been unusually quiet all evening. Suddenly, he turned toward me. There was something desperate burning in his eyes, a restless fire that made my heart skip a beat. Gently, yet firmly, he took my hands in his. "Mary," he said softly, "I can't pretend anymore that we're just colleagues." His voice dropped to a whisper that sent a shiver through me. "I don't want this evening to end. Come home with me." "No, come to your place. Please. I need to be with you. Really be with you. We both need this." My heart lurched. For one breathtaking moment, anticipation flared inside me like a spark of pure happiness, and then reality struck. I saw another woman waiting for him at home. I saw the wedding ring on his finger. I saw myself becoming a thief, stealing fragments of warmth that belonged to someone else. The illusion shattered. Slowly, fighting every instinct within me, I pulled my hands away from his. "No, Alan." "Mary, why?" The pain in his voice was almost unbearable. "Because I won't sleep with a married man." I met his gaze directly, even though tears were already threatening to spill. "I won't become someone's secret. I won't be an escape from an unhappy marriage. I know too well what betrayal feels like. And I've spent too long putting myself back together to walk willingly into that kind of hell." Alan closed his eyes. A look of profound anguish crossed his face, as if my words had struck him physically. "I love you, Mary," he whispered. Every unspoken feeling of the past 6 months seemed to live inside those words. "God knows I do. These months with you have been the only time I've truly felt alive. But I can't leave her. Our daughter is 10. She adores me. If I walk away, it will break her heart. I can't destroy my own child's life." His honesty was merciless, and it destroyed the last of my illusions. Hot tears rolled down my cheeks. "And what exactly are you asking me to do?" I whispered. "Wait? To live on stolen glances? Share your bed and your soul while you protect the peace of your real family, only to watch you go back to them afterward?" My voice trembled. "I won't settle for half a man, Alan. I deserve someone whole." I drew a deep breath, gathering the last of my strength. "We have to stop this. All of it. No more walks, no more coffee, no more personal conversations. Only work." I paused. "Let's end this now, before we burn each other to ashes." A suffocating silence filled the car. Alan looked at me as though he were seeing me for the last time. He opened his mouth, searching for words, but there were none left. Finally, he gave a slow, defeated nod. Then, he pushed open the door and stepped into the raging winter night. For a moment, he stood beside the car, looking through the glass at me. Then he turned away and disappeared into the white curtain of snow. The moment his figure vanished into the darkness, I broke. I buried my forehead against the steering wheel and sobbed harder than I had ever cried in my life. They were tears of release. For him, for myself, for a love that had blossomed too late and in the wrong place. But when I finally started the engine and drove through the snow-covered streets, another feeling began to emerge through the pain in my chest. A bitter yet perfectly clean freedom. Epilogue. The law of conservation of love. Another year passed. On the windowsill of my classroom, a white orchid bloomed at last. I had long believed it was dead. Outside, autumn danced through the air once again. But this time it no longer seemed bleak. It seemed peaceful. Alan and I kept our promise. We remained colleagues, polite, distant, and careful. From time to time, I would see him walking down the corridor. The hunted sadness that had once lived in his eyes was gone. He had made his choice, and I had made mine. During that year, I learned something that biology textbooks never teach. Nature always strives for balance, and the human soul is no exception. After betrayal and heartbreak, you cannot fill an inner void with another person, especially when that person is carrying unresolved chaos of their own. True, mature love cannot grow from someone else's unhappiness or from secret compromises with your conscience. It blossoms only when two people first find peace within themselves, choose their own path, and then whole and complete choose each other. I smiled at my reflection in the window. I was ready to move forward. My life was finally my own again. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss future stories.